Yes, now I can hear you.
There we go. It's good to see you again. They're just hearing a little bit of noise. I just finished the form. Let me just say one quick thing. Oh,
Also, Glenn, he's pinned now, not
I'm gonna
spotlighted,
thank
so the
you.
three of us aren't. I don't think the three of us are on spotlight, so he may not be able to see Glenn.
Oh my God, thank you. Let me just, may I? This is my wife, Brooke. What was your name, ma'am? Robin said she'd like to volunteer. Good.
Gotta do what you gotta do. We're
No,
here.
no, no. We're doing it real time.
Okay, yes. Are you able
Thank
to
you.
see other participants in the other spotlight so that you can see when your time is up? Because I see you.
I can only see your face. I see it 15 seconds here.
Okay.
Uh,
So when
internet. I'm ready to start right now. Sorry,
your
everybody else.
15 seconds are up, they're gonna show you. Can you see that?
The 15-second box.
You can see that.
I see the box, but yes, I'll be ready to. Yes, to your guidance there.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll start now.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Uh, so first and foremost is thank you everybody for all that you all have done. And everything that you continue to do. So my name is Michael Blake. I have served in the assembly for 6 years, where I created the My Brother's Keeper program to help make sure students can go to school and graduate from school. We focused very clearly around the prompt pay bill. We've been very clear around the responsibility of housing, and when I was the chair of the Mitchell-Lama subcommittee, to make sure we created greater protections when it comes to housing. I am running for mayor as someone who served as President Obama, for President Obama, rather, not as an actor for him, but as a White House aide when it came to minority women-owned business outreach. Very clearly focused on what we can do right now around affordability. I have said that we need to end credit scores as we also increase income limits for housing applications and equally have greater housing protections for our tenants. Everything from a rent freeze in the first year to advanced tenant protection with our legal entities. We need to be very thoughtfully protective of making sure we have 1,000 mental health professionals on our subways and streets because the police have not been trained for that, and we can actually give people a better opportunity. We can be very thoughtful around civics, financial literacy, and mental health for our students before they graduate, and make sure that everyone from Manhattan Plaza to all communities across the city can actually have someone that will fight for them. As the only person in this race with White House, State House, and local experience, as a husband, as a father, as a reverend, as a community leader, as the only person who has also defeated Donald Trump when I was vice chair of the DNC. I am asking for your vote. I'm asking for you to rank me first because we can do this better. We do not have to go back to the days of Cuomo. We can move forward in a new vision. My name is Michael Blake, and if you believe in a Mitchell-Lama 2.0, if you believe in tenants' rights, if you believe that we can have affordability and actual quality in our city, I am asking for you to rank me first on the June 24th, and I look forward to your questions at this time.
Thank you so much for that. I'll get started right away. So, how do you intend as mayor to balance safety with protecting civil liberties? And what policies would you put in place to protect due process for all New York residents, including those who are undocumented?
ICE has no business at our places of worship, our community centers, our schools. And we would say very clearly that we will not allow for ICE to be in these various facilities, designate them as safe havens, make it very clear that at the end of the day, you can only be present if there's a signed judicial warrant. Otherwise, you will not be in our spaces there. We will make sure simultaneously that when we think about our public safety, again, I think we need to have 1,000 mental health professionals on our subways and streets so that our NYPD can then focus on precision policing while making sure there's great accountability and our civil protections. That means from the NAACP to the New York Civil Liberties Union and others that are a part of the armor bearers to make sure that we have the legal and advocacy protections for all of our communities, undocumented and not. Lastly, we will not be a place that will trade our values in order for funding from DC. That is not who we are. That is not what we will be. And so to your question, Madam President, that is the very specific way that we will move forward, making sure that the legal protections are existing and also being intentional of being very clear on how do we make sure we maintain our civil rights and our civil justice in the face of the unconstitutional attacks that are coming from DC.
Wonderful, thank you. Currently, the state receives around 93 billion from the federal government. New York City receives about 26% of that. What would be your plan if the Trump administration cuts funding from the city and state? How would you address this huge shortfall in funding? New York State pays more revenue and taxes to the federal government than it receives. Would you be in favor of withholding this money or taxing the billionaires more?
We have to withhold sending funds to DC. I've said, I was the first one in this race to say this, that we will not abide by unconstitutional behavior that is coming out of DC. We will directly work with companies that are getting contracts in New York City and say, if you want to maintain this contract, you will not abide by unconstitutional behavior. It will be upon you, withhold sending your taxes to DC until this unconstitutional tax stops. Moreover, take very specific steps on how we will pay for this vision. Focus on a vacant apartment and a vacant commercial tax so that someone is not utilizing New York City as their primary residence. You can generate $2 billion by doing that alone. Reclaiming outstanding fines and fees, in particular from parking. That's another $2 billion right now that can be brought back here. NYPD, there was $1.4 billion last year in excessive overtime by their own acknowledgement was not tied to increased public safety, but because of work shortages. If we actually make sure we have smarter policing and collaborate more effectively, we would be in a scenario very thoughtfully where we're also generating that revenue back as well. And so taking those concrete steps, we would be able to make sure we have the funding to address what is happening and the attacks that are coming from DC while making sure we're not losing who we are. And I am saying very thoughtfully, very specifically, very intentionally that we will not be a city, if you give me the chance to be your mayor, that will lose our values in exchange for funds. That is why we're in this mess right now. Eric Adams is willing to trade staying out of jail for funds. He's willing to trade staying out of jail for ICE. That is not who I will be. And for any of you that watched me last night on the debate stage, you saw very clearly what kind of leader I am and what kind of leader I will be if you give me the chance.
Thank you. Do you have a stance on the city's congestion pricing? And would you consider an exemption for residents that live in the zone?
Absolutely. Yes to the second part of the question. And yes, I definitely have a position. Congestion pricing, the intent of congestion pricing is correct. It would reduce traffic. It would improve the environment. I think the execution was clumsy and dumb and ineffective and needs to be done much better. I'm being nice and how I say that because I'm a reverend. I'm in a church right now, right? So when we think about this, the thought that you would have a scenario at 60th Street where you have two different streets where it forces you to effectively drive into the zone is unfair. The reality is this. Let's find ways so that there are exemptions for those that live within the facility, live within the zone, but also for our public sector service workers. What are we saying to people? That you are working for our government, but you're effectively having a $9 tax for the purpose of generating more revenue for the city. You have some in this race who will say, we've made so much money back and we're going to do all these things. But then what happens to the person that is struggling right now? And so like with any policy, you have to be willing to acknowledge, can it be done better? I do believe the intent is right, but I think the execution was wrong. And that is an approach that we have to take to make this much better.
Thank you. Okay, and this is a question that's specifically tailored for you, sir. Through Atlas Strategy Group, you've focused on economic empowerment and opportunities for minorities, women, and small businesses. How can you actualize these programs as mayor of New York City on a larger scale? Or how?
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you said how. I want to make sure I hear the
How
last
would
part.
you, if you
How would
plan
I?
to?
How would I? Well, let's start from my track record. You know, when I was with President Obama on a national level, for perspective, where I was the National Deputy Director of Operation Vote, equally, I'll just make sure it didn't freeze. Okay. Equally, in my work at Kairos Democracy Project and Atlas, I've managed about 15,000 people at scale. So for different degrees, for people that awareness there. First, we need to have elements such as a prompt pay bill executed in the city. If anyone goes online, you will see that when I was an assembly member, my signature economic bill that supported businesses was a prompt pay bill in New York State that pays businesses that contract with New York State that are less than 300 employees in 15 days to 30 days. The reason why we created that bill, and it's a bipartisan bill, is that I was sick and tired of people waiting to get paid for doing the work. It's one of the reasons why I said consistently that we have to reimburse our nonprofits faster and, quite frankly, provide grants to our small businesses faster. So how do we do this at scale in the city? First, implement that similar bill on a municipal level. If I was able to do it in the state, I definitely can do it within the city. Equally, the way it was effective is that you put an economic trigger within the bill so that if someone is not paid on time and it is the government's fault, then there has to be some form of an extension of a contract or leniency that happens on a small business so that they are not being harmed because of the incompetence and inefficiency from the government. Moreover, when we think about how to be intentional and thoughtful, that means we have to make sure we have legal protections when it comes to gender, when it comes to race, when it comes to our communities, because we know that those attacks are going to come out of DC for the purpose of trying to deny that. That is not what we would tolerate when we make sure we have those protections in place. And because the federal government would not have the ability to dictate what's happening with the city government to that degree, that is how, to your question, I would implement it at scale and immediately, effectively, and legally, no matter what comes out of DC.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering our questions. And now we'd love to give you 1 minute to close and say good evening.
Good evening again, everyone. I'm grateful for you tonight. Uh, for anyone that might be meeting me for the first time, my name is Michael Blake. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a community leader, and I'm ready to lead this city. I have the experience from the White House, from the State House to the local level. We have the vision around ending credit scores for rent home ownership applications while we increase income limits, civics, financial literacy, and mental health, 1,000 mental health professionals, and protecting the tenants in Manhattan Plaza. To learn more about us, join us at BlakeForNYC.com. That's Blake4NYC.com. I want you to rank me first. If I'm not first, I want to rank you second, but make sure I'm ranked. And I end on this. You all saw last night, 9 of us on that stage. You saw and you heard what kind of mayor I can be. Give me the chance to lead this city so we can have a new generation of leadership. It's great to be with you, and I ask for your vote and I ask for your consideration.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We know you're really busy, and we wish you the best of luck, sir.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, folks, we will now move. We have a couple of our candidates in our waiting room. I'm going to now try again and spotlight ourselves and see if this works. And Liz, if you want to go ahead and admit Ms. Adams. And you are on mute, Liz, just so you know. Oh, Zorhan was let in, but unfortunately, sir, I think we've just gotten backed up a little bit. If we could have you wait, you'll have to unmute, Liz.
Zoran, hi there. We're about 15 minutes away. Thank you for being so patient. We got a late start, but we have Adrian Adams in front of you, and then we'll be ready to go. And I'll keep you posted. You're welcome to stay and listen, or you're welcome to also jump off and do something else for 15 minutes. Your choice. So we're ready to go. Miss Adrian Adams, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. Welcome,
Hi.
welcome. Sorry about that little snafu.
It's okay. We
We are
made it.
we are so happy that you're here to talk to our
Thank you.
community. But I just want to mention just the ground rules quickly because I don't know what does get relayed in all the busyness of your campaign lives right now. But this forum is structured this way. You will get a 2-minute opener to describe some, whatever you want to say about yourself, and then you will have 5 questions with a 2-minute response. And then The final piece of it is you'll have a 1-minute closer to tell us why you are the best person for mayor for New York City. 4 questions are the exact same questions as every candidate's being asked. The 5th one is specific to you. That was submitted by our residents. So I'm going to pass it off. Oh, I just want to tell you one other thing. We do have a timer. Carl, he has 15 seconds there in his little box there, and you will see that when you're 15 seconds away from your 2 minutes. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to our president, Alida Lafargue, and she will begin moderating this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi there. As
Hi.
Liz mentioned, I'm Alida Lafargue. I want to welcome you to the Manhattan Plaza Tenants Association Mayoral Forum. We're so happy to have you here this evening.
Thank you.
Sorry for keeping you waiting. I just want to make sure that you can see the window that shows the 15 seconds. Are you able to see all of us?
Yes.
You are.
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
So that will show up when you have 15 seconds. We're going to
Okay.
start out, as we've mentioned already. There are 4 questions we're asking all of the candidates, and there will be 1 question at the end that's unique for you. And we want to go ahead and give you 2 minutes to open, and we welcome you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be on with you all this evening. I am Adrienne Adams, and I'm running for mayor because I'm an everyday New Yorker. I know life in the city, and I know that it's felt hard for a lot of us right now. I am a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I raised 4 children in the same home that I still live in Southeast Queens. But we need leadership that's focused on us right now. We don't need leadership that is distracted by scandal, drama. I keep using that word. That's a part of my vernacular these days. And we don't need somebody that will trail in their corruption. It seems like corruption is leaving City Hall and corruption wants to come back in the other side. We need someone that will lead with solutions. Not someone that is going to need on-the-job training. I'm someone that is already doing the work. I come from working people, from a working family, raised by union workers, not political royalty. I began my career as a flight attendant, which is a little known fact. And later on, I moved on to be a leadership coach for Fortune 500 executives. So I'm not a career politician either, but after more than 20 years in the private sector, I stepped up to serve my community on the city council. So I'm not running for me. I'm running for all of us to make New York City and more affordable for families like mine who are struggling to stay here, for seniors that want to retire in peace, and for young people that are inspired by the possibilities, but wondering if this city really still has space for them. I'm running for every New Yorker that feels neglected, but never gave up on this city, because all of us believe that New York can work, but only if it works for all of us. So I'm Adrienne Adams, and I hope that you will rank me number 1 when you vote. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll get started right away. So how do you intend as mayor to balance safety with protecting civil liberties? And what policies would you put in place to protect due process for all New York City residents, including those who are undocumented?
Thank you very much for the question. I put out my public safety agenda a few weeks ago at One Police Plaza, and we have candidates in the race that are looking at throwing thousands of police officers into an NYPD as a solution. I realize that we have a deficit right now in the NYPD. We've got over 2,000 vacancies in the NYPD, and my plan is to fill those vacancies within my first 8 months as mayor. We need to also pay our police officers what they are worth. We are losing very young officers right now, not even on the job for 3 or 4 years, but they're leaving because they cannot afford their own pay. So we have to value those officers that we bring on to the NYPD. We also need to make sure that we are taking them out of the business of mental health and social services. That isn't what they signed up for. They signed up to protect us and to stop crime from happening before it ever begins. I've also got some innovative ideas about how to utilize our crisis management system, our violence interrupters. For us here in Southeast Queens, we have amazing violence interrupters. They work. They have reduced crime by 21% in the city of New York. My thought is to utilize that talent, put that talent underground in the subways right now, where we are seeing the highest rate of violent crimes happening in our subway system. We have talent if we invest in it. We have to have the political will and the political courage to make sure that community is brought in to into our policing. Police need to understand that it is a joint effort. Community needs to understand that they have a responsibility as well to work together with the police department, who are willing to help and who are willing to do the best job that they can be for all of the people of the city of New York to protect us all.
Wonderful. So currently, New York State receives around $93 billion from the federal government to fund programs. New York City receives about 26% of that. How would you address this huge shortfall in funding if the Trump administration were to cut funding from the city and state? We know that New York State pays more revenue in taxes to the federal government than it receives. Would you be in favor of withholding this money or taxing the billionaires?
I love this question. I'm the only candidate in the race that has successfully negotiated city budgets, among a lot of other things, because I'm the only one that's really currently doing the work as the city council speaker. So it's not that I'm going to need a manual or a textbook or anything. I'm already doing the work. We are successfully negotiating our fourth city budget. So I've already put aside almost $2 billion to Trump-proof New York City. We're going to need that money in reserves. We don't know what we are up for, but anybody that's mayor is going to have a target, or this target is going to continue to be on our backs as New Yorkers. So I am already doing that work. I'm looking for the administration to one-up me, or a few billion me at this point, when it comes to Trump-proofing our city, when it comes to reserves and holding aside money to protect our resources. And the answer to your question, Aleta, is yes. I absolutely would be in favor of withholding taxes. New York City contributes billions of dollars more than any other city in this country. And we have to be bold about who we are as New Yorkers by flexing our fiscal muscles. We have the ability to do this, to prove our worth by withholding our worth. Let's do that. And let's let Donald Trump and the rest of the nation look for New York for help for a change. We don't have to be the underdogs in this scenario. Again, we've got to have the right leader. I believe that's me, already doing the work, the person that has the courage to confront this situation.
Thank you. So what is your stance on congestion pricing? And would you consider an exemption for residents who live in the zone?
I would. Congestion pricing is the law. I think that we all need to be clear about that, because I hear a lot of conversations about the flexibility of congestion pricing, and right now it is the law. It's the law of the state, so it's not even something that, as a city, that we even have jurisdiction over. So if other candidates are saying, yes, I'm going to make a change to that, I'm wondering how. My constituents would love, I'm from Queens, so my constituents were opposed from day one. So I'm wondering how on earth, anyone else in this race as mayor could say, we're going to X this out. The truth of the matter is, it is state law. My position on this is that we cannot allow Donald Trump to usurp our law. If we give this away to him, we have given away the power of New York City. We have given away the power of the people, which is what I'm all about in this race, empowering the people. But I would definitely consider, if I had that within my power, I would talk to the governor as mayor and see if we absolutely could parlay a discount for those in the zone. Absolutely.
Thank you. So this is a question now that will be specifically for you.
Okay.
You said that you support guaranteed income. Can you
Yes.
explain that a little bit more and where you intend to get the money for this program?
My favorite thing to talk about. Thank you for asking. Nobody asks me about this, or very rarely. I have a pilot program right now for guaranteed income, and it's specifically designed to prevent homelessness and prevent child poverty before it ever begins. In concert with the Bridge Project, I brought 161 women who were pregnant or are currently pregnant at this moment, put them into this program. It is a 3-year stipend, starting out with, I believe this one is 2,500, then reduced to 1,000 the second year, then reduced to 500 the third year, the final year. So what this does is this gives a cushion to these 161 women currently in this program, which is working. It is working. 63% of them have already moved through this program, through my program, from shelter into permanent housing. We can do this on a citywide basis. This great work that I've done in the city council, I want to expand this great work as mayor. We can do this. We can do this through city funding, and we can do this through private funding. I already have the plan laid out. It's already laid out. What this does also is this does something for the mental health of these women that are in this program. It goes from negative to 1,000 immediately because they know that they can put food on the table. They can handle their prenatal care. They can handle their children's clothing and other things. My plan as mayor is to expand this program to 0 to 5 children, aged children, and then children that may be in a homeless situation, aged 15 to 24, and then also youth aging out of foster care. We can do this as a city. My plan is to prevent homelessness before it ever begins. Let's stop child poverty before it ever begins. We have to have the political courage. As your mayor, I will have that political courage as I already have. I'm already doing the work.
Amen. Okay, one more question for you. Many people are concerned about pedestrian safety and have gotten seriously injured by e-bikes on the sidewalk or running through traffic lights. This is sort of a two-part question.
Okay.
Would you consider implementing policies to hold app-based food delivery companies accountable for traffic violations committed by their delivery workers while under contract? Additionally, would you support requiring these companies to provide safe, accessible spaces for their workers to rest between deliveries? Or would you have another idea?
Oh my gosh. Your recommendations are well taken. The answer to both would be yes and yes. I believe that the delivery companies should be 1,000% responsible for their delivery drivers, many of whom are just trying to make a living with very minimal salary to make that. And my hope would be not to put them at risk when it comes to putting food on their table, because it's hard enough for them as it is. We need for the delivery companies like DoorDash, like Uber Eats and others to take the responsibility of paying the fines and of training these individuals that need to be trained so that, number one, they don't hurt themselves and they don't hurt others. So I am wholeheartedly into both parts of your question. The answer is a resounding affirmative, and I agree with you. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you for joining us this evening. We know
That's
you're
it.
very busy, that is all, but we really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail. We're
What
very
a
excited
pleasure.
for you.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very much.
inviting me, and it's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure to speak with you this
Thank
evening.
you for
Good
coming.
evening, everyone. Good
Thank you
night.
so
Bye-bye.
much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Zoran. Are you here, Zoran? I see you. You just have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm going to, let's see.
He's here. He is.
Hello.
Hi there. Now, just really quickly, I know you have 9 minutes. So I'm going to skip my stuff and I'm going to pass it right off to Alita Lafargue, the president of our tenants association, to start the questions. And you have two minutes to answer. And Carl over there in the corner that says 15 seconds.
Yes,
When you're close to 2 minutes, he'll give you 15 seconds. And now we're going to go. All right.
that sounds great.
Oh no, we've been on Spotlighted. Thank you so much for being with us. As Liz said, I am Alita Lafargue. I'm going to just take a moment to try and spotlight you again. I don't know why we've been removed, unfortunately. I'm so sorry.
No
I want to
worries.
go ahead and give you 2 minutes to give us your opening.
Thank you so much, Alita. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I apologize that it's also cut to cut. My name is Zahran Kwame Mamdani. I am a state assembly member representing Astoria and Long Island City, and I'm running to be your next mayor because we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America, where 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty, and for the rest seem to be living in a permanent state of anxiety about whether or not they can continue to afford their rent or their mortgage, their childcare, their groceries, their Con Ed bill, even their Metro card. And I'm running to make this city affordable. I'm running to ensure that the very people who built it are not continuing to be pushed out of it. And I'm running to do that by freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent stabilized tenants, by making the slowest buses in the country fast and free, and by delivering universal childcare for each and every New York family, whether their child is 5 years or 6 weeks of age, because currently it is costing those same families $25,000 a year, more money than it would cost them to send that same child to CUNY 18 years later to have childcare for 1 year. And this is something that city government can do. And that is what I believe that city government must do, is take care of its people and ensure that this is a city that is actually affordable. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm excited to answer any and all questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. We'll just get right to it. So, how do you intend as mayor to balance safety with protecting civil liberties for all New Yorkers? What policies would you put in place to protect due process for New York City residents, including those who are undocumented?
You know, in 2021, Eric Adams, of all people, told New Yorkers that we need not choose between safety and justice. And he's shown himself unable, in large part, to deliver the former, uninterested in delivering the latter. What I will do is recognize the fact that police play a critical role in creating public safety in our city. And when I speak to those same officers, the ones that are in our rank and file on the beat, they tell me their frustration with the fact that they signed up to join the force to take on serious crimes, and yet they're being asked to play the roles of mental health professionals and social workers. They are being asked to respond to nearly every failure in the social safety net. And that request of them is one that is preventing them from focusing on those very serious crimes. And we can see that play out in the first quarter of this year, where 65% of crimes are still to be resolved. And that's why I've put forward a proposal to create a Department of Community Safety, one that would be committed to taking on 5 key areas: homelessness, mental health crisis, gun violence, hate crimes, and victim services. And at the core of it would be tackling the place where most New Yorkers tell me they feel least safe, our subway system, by hiring dedicated mental health outreach workers and deploying them in teams to the 100 subway stations with the highest levels of mental health crises and homelessness. I would do all of this while standing up for our sanctuary city policy. I sit before you all as someone who moved to this city and this country at the age of 7. I grew up in Morningside Heights, and I got my citizenship in this very city. And I'm proud to be one of the 40% of New Yorkers who are foreign born. And yet, more important than the fact that I will be the first immigrant mayor of our city in generations is what I will do. And I will stand up for our sanctuary city policies. I will start to fund our legal representation for immigrants in detention proceedings so that they can be reunited with their families. And I will be proud of everything that makes so many excited to call themselves New Yorkers.
Thank you. Currently, New York State receives about $93 billion from the federal government. New York City receives about 26% of that. What would be your plan if the Trump administration cut funding from city and state? How would you address this huge shortfall in funding? New York State pays more revenue and taxes to the federal government than it receives. Would you be in favor of withholding this money or possibly taxing billionaires?
I would be very much in support of taxing billionaires. In other words, taxing Andrew Cuomo's donors. I've said very clearly that we need to ensure we can fight the Trump administration without one hand tied behind our back. And as you said, city budget of more than $112 billion, 7% of it is funded by federal grants. And the Trump administration will hold that funding over our head as leverage to give up whichever New Yorker they're pursuing that day, be they undocumented, be they queer, be they a New Yorker that has political opinions in opposition to the Trump administration. And we need to ensure that we can fight for our values, fight for our people, fight for our laws. And part of that means increasing the top corporate tax rate of corporations that do business in New York State to match that of New Jersey. Here it's 7.25%. New Jersey, it's 11.5%. If you match it with New Jersey, that raises $5 billion a year. The second way is by taxing the 1%. These are New Yorkers who are making $1 million or more every year. And we would tax them by an increased 2%, just $20,000, which is ultimately a rounding error when you're making that much money per year. And I say all of this to say that this would not only pay for my entire economic agenda, it would also start to Trump-proof our city. And at the end of it, those millionaires and the most profitable corporations would be paying less in taxes than they had been prior to the Trump administration's first Trump tax cut.
Okay. Many people are concerned about pedestrian safety and have gotten seriously injured by e-bikes. this is a little two-part question. Would you consider implementing policies to hold app-based food delivery companies accountable for traffic violations committed by their delivery workers? And additionally, would you support requiring these companies to provide safe, accessible spaces for their workers to rest between deliveries, or do you have other ideas?
Those are absolutely ideas I would consider, and I really appreciate them because they understand that at the heart of this issue of street safety is we have an entire economic model that not only incentivizes the breaking of our road rules, but oftentimes requires it of our delivery workers, given how many deliveries they have to make. And ultimately, we need a mayor whose focus is purely on that question of safety and labor regulations. And I stand before you as a candidate in second place who is running against Andrew Cuomo, who has received $1 million in a single donation from DoorDash to his super PAC. Now, if DoorDash is giving you $1 million, they're not doing it because they're altruistic. They're doing it because they want to buy influence over those very labor regulations and street safety issues that we're talking about right now. And as tempting as it may be to think about this as an individual issue, it is an institutional issue, and it's one that I will tackle.
Thank you. One specific question for you, and then we'll wrap up and give you a little time to get to your next Zoom. You've said that you'd like to incorporate free bus transit in your plan. How would you fund this program, and would this also include subways? And do you also have a plan to make subways more accessible?
So this would be specific to buses, and it is part of my track record as a state assembly member. I won the first of its kind fare-free bus pilot in New York City history. This made one bus route free in each borough, and we saw ridership increase by up to 38%. Assaults on bus drivers dropped by 38.9%, and we saw that the most significant increase in riders was among New Yorkers making $28,000 a year or less. This in total would cost about $700 million. It would be paid for in part by the city, in larger part by the state, and through the tax revenue system I spoke about, where we match the top corporate tax rate and increase the personal income tax of the top 1% of New Yorkers. These are things that are critically important because we have the slowest buses in the country. And this idea was actually put forward by Michael Bloomberg decades ago. Because when you make the bus free, it doesn't just have economic impacts, it doesn't just have public safety impacts and even environmental impacts as you get people out of cars and into public transit. But what you also do is you make the bus faster because you enable all door boarding on local buses, which is currently something that the MTA does not do. And when we saw in Boston, when they did this on Route 28, Mayor Wu found that it decreased dwell time by 23%. That is time that can go back into your life, money that can go back into your pockets and make for a more pleasurable, more dignified use of public transit.
Love that. Okay, we know you're in a rush, so if you want to give us a couple of goodbye words, and we'll send you on your way. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You are very, very welcome. And it's been such a pleasure. You know, I especially appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you, especially given the history of Manhattan Plaza and the way in which it makes clear that a focus on affordability is also a focus on the arts. Because too often we think of the arts as separate from a question of whether New Yorkers can afford a place to call their home, when in reality, if we want art to be something more than an expression of the wealthy, but rather something that each and every New Yorker can engage in and express, we have to ensure that each and every artist can afford to live in this city. Because this is a city where so many of the greatest successes we celebrate are built on so many failures that preceded them. And the only way we can get to that success is allow people the ability to try and fail. And they can't do that if they have to hit it big every single time. They can't do that if the median rent is so high that they can never even move here in the first place or move out of their parents' home in the first place. And so I say all this to say that you all are a testament to what the city can be, and also a glimpse into what it could be if we simply allow this to be an example we put in a museum as opposed to one that we build upon each and every day. And I'm proud as a candidate to be focused on that affordability, to be here with 19 days before the election, firmly in second place, to have broken fundraising records, and to have a campaign team of 30,000 people knocking on more than 750,000 doors. And it would be an honor to not simply have your consideration, but your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you walking the campaign trail soon.
Hopefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hello. So Scott, I see that you're here, Mr. Scott Stringer. Can you hear me? I know
Scott,
he's
could unmute yourself and we can, there he is.
Hi.
Hi,
Welcome.
I will add you. Here we
Welcome.
go.
Oh, look who's
Welcome,
here.
welcome. I'm sorry that you had to wait a little bit. Thank you for being so patient.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay, so I'm just going to briefly recap this. I'm Liz Keefe. I'm just going to briefly recap the kind of the format or the parameters of our forum here. So you'll get a 2-minute opener to tell us a little bit something about yourself, whatever you'd like to share with us, and then you'll be asked 5 questions, and you'll get a 2-minute response to answer those questions. The first 4 questions are all what's been asked of all the other candidates. The 5th one is unique to you. And then the very final thing is you'll get a 1-minute kind of closing statement to tell us why you would be the best choice for mayor for New York City. And from this point forward, I'm going to pass it off to Alida Lafargue, our president of the Tenants Association, and she will be the moderator and take it from here.
Thank you, Liz. Hello,
Welcome.
Alida.
Hi, so
How
good to
are
see
you?
you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
How are the boys?
They're living their best lives.
Oh, I forgot one thing, Scott.
Yeah.
You see 15 seconds there in the corner? Carl is going to be timing you. So when you see that 15 seconds means you have 15 seconds to wrap up.
Got it. Oh, good.
Okay.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks.
You're welcome.
The boys are great. I think you're going to see them out in the campaigning the next week or two, so they tell me, so it'll be fun.
Good, put them to work.
Thank you.
So go ahead and give us your 2 minutes opening.
So, first of all, it really is great to be in front of all of you. I've spent close to 30 years in and around Manhattan Plaza. I feel like all of you know me. I've knocked on every single one of your doors. I've gone to the holiday parties. I've gone to the tenant meetings. And I have fought for you as an assemblyman, borough president, and as city controller. But that means that I have the experience to do this job. But also, in additional experience, you actually know what you can get done and can't get done. And you can have a campaign full of empty promises. And I believe that the vision that I have for the city is a couple of very basic things. One, end corruption at City Hall forever. Strictest lobbying laws will be enacted and signed by me on day 1. Second, let's do more Manhattan Plazas. Let's do Mitchell-Lama 2.0. This is within our reach and our grasp. And I'll tell you specifically how we do it. We have 1,000 vacant parcels of land in the city that the city owns. You own it. I own it. Pay taxes. That's part of your equity. And we should transform that land into real affordable housing for working people, for people who are struggling, for young families, for seniors. Use that land for supportive housing to help the people who are suffering from mental illness. This can be done not in 10 years or 20 years. We can access that land now to private, to not-for-profits, to limited profit developers. That is the pillar of what I think affordability looks like. But it's even more. It's about making sure that we not only bring people to New York, but we keep people in New York. And the way to do that is to recognize we have an affordability crisis that is now forcing not the billionaires to leave, but working people to leave. Some of the people who built our city through the tough times, they're the ones who are being pushed out because they don't have rent protection. They can't afford to live on a limited income. I think that's wrong. I also think if we're going to have people from all over the world, diverse people come to our city from different countries and different nations, the entrance fee to the city can't be a $2 million condo. I understand that because I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I grew up in Washington Heights. I remember when my single mom not only ran for city council and won a leader, but she also taught English to immigrants coming to the city.
Thank you.
That's the aspirational city that we should be in.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move right along to our questions that came from our Manhattan Plaza residents. So how do you intend as mayor to balance safety with protecting civil liberties? And what policies would you put in place to protect due process for all New York City residents, including those who are undocumented?
I have been on the forefront of the civil rights movement in the city for most of my elected official life. I committed civil disobedience when I was in my 20s working for then Assemblyman Jerry Nadler. Got arrested outside ExxonMobil to protest apartheid in South Africa. And I understand the rights of people to protest. I understand the rights of people to honor civil liberties. I was the first elected official who looked like me illegal, who said end, stop, and frisk before the court said it was unconstitutional. But look, we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. I think we need to hire 3,000 more cops because right now, without hiring new cops, we're going to be spending $1.3 billion a year on overtime. So let's go into our diverse communities and get the next generation of police officers. Give them predictive schedules. Give them a work-life balance that will make them better police officers and will create more safety in the subways. But let's also drive that $600 million we would save by hiring these cops into the greatest mental health initiative the city has ever seen. Below ground, above ground. Right now, what do? We take people who are suffering horribly from mental illness, people who are struggling to stay alive. We put them into a hospital for 48 hours, send them back out. We don't track them. We don't make sure they have the medicine. You know where they are, in front of Penn Station, right? They're in Grand Central Station. They're in front of your church. They're probably on the streets right outside Manhattan Plaza tonight. I want to change that. But everyone's going to tell you they want to do it, but I'm the only one to tell you the truth. I know how to do it. And this is the way I would approach it. We hire more cops, we reduce overtime, $600 million. We make sure we have a mental health initiative. And on day one, I will sign an executive order saying we will never, ever have unconstitutional stop and frisk in the city again. It's over. We have to respect people's civil liberties. We have to respect people's right to protest. But look, we also have to keep our seniors safe and our young families. And I think you can do both.
Excellent. So currently, New York State receives around $93 billion from the federal government. New York City receives about 26% of that. What would be your plan if the Trump administration were to cut funding from the city and the state? And how would you address this huge shortfall in funding? New York City and New York State pay more revenue and taxes to the federal government than it even receives. Now, would you be in favor of withholding this money or taxing the billionaires?
Well, how about this? I fought Trump. I was in Trump 1 as city controller, and I didn't give an inch while he was using his rhetoric to destroy our climate, to push private prisons, to allow people to have handguns that shouldn't have them. I was the controller that did the historic $4 billion fossil fuel divestment in this city and won. I divested from our gun holdings as controller and won. And I divested from private prisons, which were hellholes that now are used to house migrants. And I stood up to Donald Trump. Here's what I would do as mayor realistically. First, I would set aside a $1 billion very, very, very rainy day fund, $500 million from the state, $500 million from the city. I would do that as a way of being able to replenish money that Trump would steal from us, as he did with the 80 million, to make sure that we keep the social safety net alive. Lawyers for migrants, making sure that we have funding for senior centers and for young people. I believe that billion will get us to the congressional midterms when we elect Hakeem Jeffrey Speaker and begin to dismantle the Trump agenda. Has to be our short-term goal. But look, you can't play checkers with Donald Trump in Washington. You got to have experience. You got to know how to play chess with them. And you also have to understand that we're going to have to do what we did back in the 1970s when Gerald Ford, for those of you who remember, told New York City to drop dead. The government at the time worked with the labor community, right? Our labor union, our business community, and organized in this state and city to go to Washington and fight like hell for the city. And eventually we got those congressional guarantees we needed to move the city forward as we were on the edge of bankruptcy. I know how to do it. That was my lived experience growing up in the city. I think we can do it again.
Excellent. So there are many people who are concerned about pedestrian safety in terms of bicycles and e-bikes. This is sort of a two-part question. Would you consider implementing policies to hold the app-based food delivery companies accountable for traffic violations committed by their delivery workers? And additionally, would you support requiring these companies to provide safe, accessible spaces for their workers to rest between deliveries? Or do you have other ideas of how to mitigate this issue?
Yes and yes. And I want to make it very clear to all of you. And I think this is at the crux of the campaign. What Andrew Cuomo is doing with his Fix the City committee taking millions and millions of dollars in pay-to-play money from rich real estate developers, $250,000 per contribution. He outdid himself when it came to DoorDash. They gave him $1 million. You know what the maximum contribution I can receive running for mayor? $2,100. You know what my average contribution is? $80. I've raised millions of dollars. You see my TV ads, right? I call you know who a schmuck, so you all see it. But how can we let DoorDash get away with this? They are trying to buy the mayoralty. This is city for sale all over again. And let me tell you something. When I'm mayor, zero tolerance for this nonsense. We're going to make sure that we keep the deliveristas safe. We're going to slow them down. And when there's an infraction because the app has gotten stuff out of Andrew Cuomo that they should never have gotten, I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen, and we're going to hold them accountable. What they did in this campaign is shameful. It's gross. But I got to tell you something. There's a lot of companies that are doing the same thing. And we as a people have got to shut this crap down. Pardon my language, but it's very upsetting after we've worked for the campaign finance law. Alita, you've been involved in this as well. You know what it's like. We should not be bullied by these corporate entities.
Thank you. I appreciate your language. It deserves that.
Thank you.
Do you have a stance on congestion pricing, and would you be in favor of giving folks who live in the zone an exemption? Is that something that you would lobby our governor for?
Look, I think congestion pricing, the early data shows that it's really working. We're sending hundreds of millions of dollars back to the MTA. And it seems to me, especially unless you tell me differently, but from the West 40s all the way downtown, seems like it's really working. And I think that's good. But we never finished the job with congestion pricing, right? So we did it kind of backwards. What we have to make sure is a couple of things. First, we have to make sure that everyone has access to transportation alternatives. This is less of a concern in Manhattan, but quite frankly, a major concern throughout our boroughs where people still have to take two buses, two trains to get to work. There's no dedicated bus lanes. There's not a way for people to embrace congestion pricing because they're the ones who are being stuck holding the bag. I want to fix that. In terms of exemptions, what I've always said is let's run the pilot. Let's see who needs to be helped. The question is not to be oppressive with people. Like there are people, there are teachers, there are other folks who may need some help with this. And I don't think we have to simply tune people out who have real economic concerns, have a real need for a car. I don't think we have to be punitive. But I think we do have to let the process play out a little bit. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see what the data says going down the line.
Okay, thank you. Now this question is specifically for you. What will you do to prevent the federal government from cutting Section 8 funding for project-based Section 8 properties with current HAP contracts, housing assistance payments? And this is specifically, obviously, for Manhattan Plaza.
I wonder who this is for.
I'm sure you know who that came from.
I'm probably the only one who knows it. Look, we need more Section 8, not less. But we have to make sure that we are leveraging the politics of the Congress, the Senate, to ensure the safety of Section 8. It is the driving force for projects like Manhattan Plaza that could never have been created or replicated. And I will be a mayor who will ensure that not only are we fighting for our little piece to maintain it, we have to increase it. And the city also has to constantly and should be thinking about subsidies like Section 8 and other funding mechanisms to make sure that we create new affordable housing, but we make sure that we also protect the housing we have. Part of the problem with the Mitchell-Lama program, because it's really such a big part of this city, was that we had that buyout provision that I fought since I was in my 20s. When you build Manhattan Plaza, when you're building our Mitchell-Lama housing, when you look at our public housing, you can't do this in this way anymore, right? Unless you build on vacant property. So we have to hold on to what we have, and we have to allow for future generations to enjoy Manhattan Plaza. Look, this building was always the centerpiece of the beginnings of Hell's Kitchen in the Upper West Side. It was the gateway that everybody knew existed. It was the artists, the actors, the people who, were the special sauce of New York City. And then not only did people like yourselves, like you, Alita, not only did you come to Manhattan Plaza, you also transformed in a different way. Manhattan Plaza residents built the community, whether it's the block fair or being part of the political life of the city. So I want to do more of it. I want to expand Section 8. I believe in it to my core. I think it should be permanent, and I think we should expand it.
Thank you so much for that. And now I'd love to give you an opportunity to close out and say good evening.
Well, listen, everybody, I wish I could see you all in person, but I'll see you at the next tenant meeting when everyone's there. This is a very close election. I think Cuomo is on the way down, but I do think voters are looking for who is the alternative. And I will tell you, 3 weeks is a life in a mayoral race. I can give you all the stories about all the people who had no chance 3 weeks earlier and suddenly won the election, starting with Bill de Blasio and starting with all the candidates. So here's my pitch to you directly. Cuomo should not be mayor. And I don't think a candidate with no experience should be mayor. It's a fool's errand. We need a mayor who will not come in with training wheels. We need a mayor who really understands how to run this government. And I will tell you this, just an observation after 30 years, the shelf life of a mayor and a governor is getting harder and shorter. You really don't have that much time to put forth your agenda. So you better pick a candidate who is ready on day one, literally ready to implement your housing plan, your education plan. If you're going to help seniors, you better have a senior plan, but you also have to have the knowledge of the agencies. And I've audited these agencies not for 3 years or 2 years, for 8 years. I know them like the back of my hand, and I know the finances of the city. So if you want someone with vision, which we should have, and some experience and competence, I ask you to rank me number one. That's what I hope you'll do. If I don't win Manhattan Plaza, I'm not winning the election, so I know that. So it's up to you. I mean, if you're not voting for me, then I'm not sure my wife is voting for me. So I really hope you can. I'm voting for you. Oh, she said she's voting for me. Thank you, Elise.
Excellent. Hello, Elise. Thank you for joining us. Well, we're really thrilled that you could be with us here today, and hopefully we'll see you outside in person sometime soon.
Absolutely.
For the election.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So Brad Lander, I just got a text. He is running 1 minute behind, so we caught up. It got a little harried there, but we caught up, and he's 1 minute out. As soon as he comes, we will let him in the room. There you go. Bathroom break.
Well, yes, sure. Take a bathroom break. I hope everybody's enjoying and getting some good information here. And just reminding everyone, this will be our second election where we have ranked choice voting. So if you liked everybody here, guess what? You can vote for them all. You just put them in order of your preference, and I am encouraging everyone to be sure and rank 5. Do not leave one out, even if you're like, kind of like them, especially if there's one specific candidate who you really don't want to win. Then it's really important that you rank all 5, because if you don't, then that empty space can move the person you don't like up a notch. So be sure to rank 5 candidates. We've seen, has it been 5 this evening? Did we have 5? 4?
A total of 5, yes.
A total of 5. So you could rank any one of these guys. I think they've been great, personally. I'm sorry we didn't get to meet with the others who were unable to attend, but I think we've got a good group here to choose from so far.
I liked all of them.
I think they've all done well. I think this has been even more personal than it was last night at the debate, where it was kind of hard to get a good read when they were sort of going at each other and on the defense, and everybody was sort of trying to tell us how terrible Cuomo was. So that sometimes takes away from what's good about the candidate. So I'm so glad that we decided to host this evening and have some one-on-one time with each of them.
And it's nice that they're speaking directly to us, and know the building and know the community.
Nope. Here's Brad, our comptroller.
Yay.
See if we can find him and unmute. Welcome to the Manhattan Plaza Mayoral Forum, Mr. Lander.
Hi there, Brad Lander.
can we unmute so I can find you amongst the 81 people who are here this evening and throw you up on Spotlight?
I think he can hear us.
I hope he can hear
I
us.
think he can. We see that he's there.
Here, let me see if I can ask him to unmute.
Hello.
Hi, there you are. We hear
All
you.
right.
Now
Yes.
he's going to find you and put a spotlight on you.
Great.
You know what? If one of my technical support folks could go ahead and do that, I'm having a little trouble
Glenn
hitting.
will do that. While we're putting you on the spotlight, Brad, hi, it's Liz talking now.
Yes, I see both of you. So, I'm
So,
happy to do it like radio if you can
So
get my
just to
camera
kind
on.
of recap the format of how we're doing it tonight is you will have 2 minutes to open, tell us something about yourself that you might like to share with us, and then there will be 5 questions, also 2 minutes to respond to each question. The first 4 are going to be the same that we asked every other candidate before you. The fifth one will be specific to you. And then you will get a 1 minute closer to tell us why you are the best choice to be mayor for New York City. So 2 minute opener, 5 questions of 2 minutes, 1 minute closer. And Carl, will you see the little box there that says 15 seconds? He's your timer man. He's the 15-second guy. And that's what
I
you're going
love
to
it.
see when you have 15 seconds to go. And from this point on, Alita, who I know you know, she's the president of our Tenants Association. She will be moderating this. And take it away, Alita. Okay.
Hi there, and thank you so much for joining us here at Manhattan Plaza tonight. I know it's a crazy busy schedule, and thank you for bearing with us as our timing was a little bit wonky this evening, but glad you made it. So we're going to get started and give you 2 minutes to give us your opening welcome.
Great. Thank you so much, Alita and Liz and all of the Manhattan Plaza tenants. I'm Brad Lander. I'm the New York City Controller. I'm a lifelong affordable housing activist. I'm a Brooklyn dad, and I'm delighted to be with you guys because honestly, just 2 of my favorite things about New York City are affordable housing that the city helped get built and the arts and culture scene. And those things don't come together better anywhere in the world, really, than Manhattan Plaza. Unfortunately, we're not doing near enough to protect and preserve it and then make it possible for the next generation. And that really is a big part of why I'm running for mayor. Like, we need someone who is honest and has integrity, not like Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo, someone who will stand up to Donald Trump on behalf of the values of New Yorkers, and somebody who's got both the progressive values and the management chops to deliver a more affordable, a safer, a more livable, and a better run New York City. That's what I've been working on 30 years, 15 years before I was in government, doing community development and affordable housing work as a city council member, as city controller. Today, I got to walk around the Gowanus rezoning, which I helped make happen, and I got to go with an artist into a studio. She's a public housing resident, and she's got a free studio because there's over 100 affordable studios in that development, not just affordable housing where there's 3,000 units, but 130 affordable artist studios too. That's the kind of work I've been doing. Let's build and preserve affordable housing and protect tenants, and let's do it in a way that makes great neighborhoods like what you guys have there. So I'm going to fight to protect all tenants, keep rents down, including a rent freeze this year, build 500,000 homes across the city, including 50,000 on the 4 of the city's 12 city-owned golf courses, and deliver a genuinely safer, genuinely more livable, and better run New York City for all New Yorkers, with Manhattan Plaza as one of the models. Honored to be supported by Hell's Kitchen Dems and some other of your neighbors, and excited to be here to answer your questions.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm jealous. 100 studio spaces sounds amazing. We
And
definitely.
they look incredible. I didn't get to see them. I worked with this group, Arts Gowanus, to make it happen, but I hadn't seen them before today, and it's really pretty amazing. We could be doing that everywhere. I'm happy to tell the story a little more if I have time. But
Sure. We'll jump into our questions and then we'll give you a moment to tell us a little more about that. I know our residents would be interested. So moving right along, how do you intend as mayor to balance safety with protecting civil liberties? And what policies would you put in place to protect due process for all New York residents, including those who are undocumented?
Yeah, so let me just tell you about what I did today. I have been, like everyone else, just agonized by the horrors going on with ICE scooping up, starting with Mahmoud Khalil and Mohsen Madawi, and then this New York City public school student, Dylan Contreras, and then even arresting court watchers and Congressman Nadler's staffers. So today, I reached out to Immigration ARC, and I went down as an immigration court watcher myself to 290 Broadway, and I accompanied three families out of the building. I got up there and they said, okay, well, we thought we were going to have you observe, but what we need you to do is this guy Camilo in his 20s, was holding this 2-year-old boy, Brian, in his hands. He just had them do what they did to Dylan last week. They nominally dismissed his deportation case, but that means he's now subject to expedited removal. And we think as he leaves the building, they will probably grab him, go. And so Camilo and I go get in the elevator, and he expects ICE agents to come pick him up, and I do too. But thank God we were able to take the elevator downstairs together. I walked him out of the building and took him to the subway. And then I went back and did it 2 more times with a family, a couple that had just had their cases separated. So like I witnessed a family separation, but thank God at least able to get out of the building. And then the last family was a couple whose kids are in public school in the Bronx, and they were worried they weren't going to see them again. Like what is happening is terrifying. So I was there like with my body today to be a witness and an accompanier. But as mayor, that couple that's got kids in the schools, we should already have our schools being places where people are getting information, where the parent coordinators and school social workers are saying, okay, here's how you get connected to legal assistance that we can help provide so you know what's likely coming. The city can be doing so much more to stand up for due process and the rule of law. And as mayor, it will be a top priority of mine.
Thank you for that. It's just heartbreaking hearing these stories. So this is probably a good one for you as our comptroller. Currently, New York State receives around $93 billion from the federal government. New York City receives about 26% of that. What would be your plan if the Trump administration cuts funding from the city and state? We know New York State pays more revenue and taxes to the federal government than it receives. Would you be in favor of withholding this money or taxing billionaires?
So I'm guessing those numbers actually come from the report that we did 1 week after Trump was elected. I became the first financial officer anywhere in the country to detail where all the federal money coming into the city budget is for the city itself, for things like NightGen Health and Hospitals, also for our nonprofit organizations, and to outline some strategies that we could be using, like growing our general reserve by $1 billion so we could be in position to fill gaps and cuts when they come. Trump, for example, already cut 7,700 housing vouchers in New York. We should be working with those families right now to try to prevent them from becoming homeless. And I've laid out a detailed plan for how we can protect reproductive care, abortions and contraception, and gender affirming care at health and hospitals by creating an independent health authority. We're already only paying for those with city, state, and private funds because you're not allowed to use federal funds, but we should move it out of H&H from a budget code point of view. So it's funded by an independent health authority, and that way H&H can keep getting its $1 billion in Medicaid funding while New York City keeps providing abortion and contraception and gender affirming care. So there's a lot of strategies. Oh, and I should say when Elon Musk stole that $80 million from New York, my office uncovered it. I forced the law department into court to get it back. And I'm definitely for, if they raise the SALT cap, which it seems like they're likely to do, some of what comes back into the pocket of the wealthiest New Yorkers through the SALT cap should indeed become, New York City and New York State should, let's say take half of it. You get to keep, so you still, the folks that will receive, half of it, and the city and state could take half of it. And that would enable us to pay for some of the services that the federal government is decimating in healthcare and housing and food stamps, et cetera.
Okay. So many people here are concerned about pedestrian safety in terms of the e-bikes and traffic. This will be a two-part question. Would you consider implementing policies to hold app-based food delivery companies accountable for traffic violations committed by their delivery workers? And additionally, would you support requiring these companies to provide safe, accessible spaces for their workers to rest between deliveries?
Yes, absolutely. And, people gave me feedback last night that I had too many times. I'm like, yes, I've got a plan for that, but I'm going to drop in the chat. We have a really specific plan for street safety in the era of micromobility. And I think the number one or the number two recommendation is exactly what you just said.
Okay. We don't have our chat enabled, but we will take any
all right.
links
Well,
or
you can
any.
look at,
We'll
this
take
one
questions
actually,
also.
yeah, that's great.
Or
This
you
one
can
is
mention it now during
Yeah,
your.
that's good. This one is actually proposed by my office as controller, not by my campaign. So you won't find it at landerfornyc.com. You'll find it on the controller's website because we did a very detailed office side look, focusing on going upstream and covering the apps who have all the information about all the trips being taken that make them money. They know the speeds people are going. They know when they're on the sidewalks. They have the ability to ensure safety. And we can also enforce the sellers of mopeds. Mopeds are motor vehicles, and you're not allowed to operate a car dealership that sells cars without license plates to drivers without licenses. And the sales places of mopeds as well need to either sell them with license plates to drivers with licenses or not at all. They could sell bicycles.
Okay, and the second part of that question was, would you be in favor of providing safe spaces for
Yeah.
these delivery workers?
Absolutely.
What the
When I announced this plan, we did it along with some seniors groups and with the Deliveristas Union. We found a way to make a proposal that will make streets safer for pedestrians, but doesn't, punish or penalize the Deliveristas, makes them understand the rules. Their employers are backing their rules. Their employers are providing safe spaces. This is work they're doing, and their employers have a responsibility to make it safe work for them, for their customers, and for pedestrians.
Thank you. Do you have a position on congestion pricing, and would you consider supporting an exemption for residents or other city workers?
I support congestion pricing, and I sure understand why people, like right where you guys are like, how is this? We live here. We're not driving to work here. And, I also do understand how, police officers, firefighters, and teachers who are assigned to schools, firehouses, and police precincts in the zone are thinking, I didn't necessarily choose this location. So I understand the concerns. I think there might be some ways of addressing it, like giving, enabling, like some places have commuter benefits, so one possibility would be to provide, some kind of, commuter benefit to those employees. There's, some people, anyway, so I'm for congestion pricing. I'm open to thinking creatively about solutions to help make it work as effectively as it can.
Okay, thank you. So this question will be specifically for you.
Great.
So you've stated that you'll solve our affordability crisis by building truly affordable housing, freezing the rent, and increasing home ownership. How do you plan to implement this and pay for it?
Yeah. So first I'll say, everyone's talking about affordable housing. I've been working on it my whole adult life for 15 years before I was in public office. That's what I did. And, then I just kept working on it, the working Gowanus, as I say, where we really brought people together to be, to do the affordable arts work and the open space and the public housing and the environmental infrastructure. As controller, I did what I think is the best affordable housing investment. When Signature Bank failed, that put 35,000 rent stabilized housing units at risk because they had the mortgages and we thought they would get sold to bottom feeders. So I teamed up with some of our investors and we made a pension fund investment to buy all 35,000 mortgages, and every unit is still rent stabilized and affordable. and delivering an 11% return for our teachers and cops and firefighters and school crossing guards in the pension funds. So that's the kind of leadership I'll bring to City Hall. I know this work inside and out. I'll declare a housing state of emergency on day one, bring New Yorkers together for a planning process that looks at the places where we can have more density, like around the Interborough Express, the new rail line from Brooklyn and Queens, like on 4 of the city's 12 city-owned golf courses where we could build great new neighborhoods like Manhattan Plaza or Penn South or Co-op City. We could build new family-friendly, arts-engaged, well-designed neighborhoods for the future. I'll protect tenants by making sure a right to counsel is genuinely provided so tenants don't face eviction in housing court without a lawyer, by making sure everyone knows about their rights under good cause eviction, and getting back in the business of working on affordable homeownership, where I have a few plans that build on the Mitchell-Lama idea and restore that pathway to affordable homeownership for working and middle-class families.
Thank you for that. And now I'd like to give you a moment to say good evening and maybe talk to us a little bit about those art studio spaces.
Yeah. So this is a great, I mean, we brought a lot of people to the table. And the public housing residents said, we're not against new development so long as you actually just fix our houses. And so we got the money, 200 million, every unit staying in traditional Section 9 public housing and getting a comprehensive modernization. The environmentalists said we need the Gowanus Canal cleaned up and to reduce stormwater that flows into it. So we built in the infrastructure. I thought the artists would be like, get out of here. Like, we're not going to support the knocking down of these one-story industrial buildings because we have a lot of, space in them. But instead they said, okay, there's a couple of key buildings that we think we could protect, and we actually did. And then they said, okay, these are going to be new 20-story buildings that have affordable housing and canal front open space. What if we told developers you could build one more floor, but it could only be for arts or artisan type uses? And we went to the developers, and the developers said, yeah, we would totally do that. And so we went to city planning, and they said, we've never done that before, but they agreed to do it in Gowanus. And then we went back to the developers because the city planning wasn't going to require that they be affordable. They were just going to say it has to be art space. But we went back to the developers and said, this is not going to be easy to get, the community board to support. Will you agree to make a big chunk of them, basically half of them, affordable, working with this nonprofit, Arts Gowanus? And 12 of them said yes. So now there's going to be 120 studios that rent for $300 a month or less. And a few of the artists saw their units for the first time today. So that's pretty specific. I mean, that's not my path to victory, how I'll win, or all my other endorsers. But it is a good example of the kind of leadership I will bring to City Hall, grounded in the values that make this city great, as exemplified by what Manhattan Plaza is, with a real roll up my sleeves, bring people to the table and solve problems together. If you like that model of leadership, I'm one of the top 3 polling candidates and have a lot of great support from a lot of Manhattan Democratic political clubs and elected officials. And with your help, can win on June 24th. So I'll be honored to have you rank me first on your ballots, and I'm super grateful for the time.
Well, thank you so much. And I totally agree that every new development should have some free studio space. I think that is a role we should just put forth. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming, Brad.
Thank you out on the street.
Great to talk with you all. Thank you.
Likewise. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you to everyone who joined us this evening, and thank you for your patience. It was a bumpy start, but we got it together in the end. And as we said before, we will make this recording available on YouTube, and we'll send out that link tomorrow in a follow-up email. And anyone who doesn't live here, how do we get you that link? I guess we can.
Well, can they go to our Facebook page?
Sure. Well, or they can go to our website. How about that?
Yeah. Okay.
What's our website? mptenants.zakia. Can you tell us if we changed it to dot? I'm sorry, guys.
The key is the web mistress.
Our web mistress. If you could
I
go.
know that's here.
At the height of this evening, we had 82 participants, I think. So that's a
Very
82
good.
more people who will be more informed about their choices
I'll try to do it right now.
for mayor. And again, for the last time, please, when you go to vote, rank 5 candidates. Don't leave it blank. Don't just rank your one favorite and leave the rest, because you're leaving it open for the one you don't want to win. So hopefully this evening you got a better idea of at least 5 of these candidates. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And this was delightful.
We'll try to put that on the website.
We'll put it on the website, which is is it MP Tenants? I'm sorry, guys. It is mptenants.net.
.net.
Yes,
MP,
mptenants.net.
mptenants.net. Okay.
Oh boy.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming and enjoy this beautiful evening.
Thank you very much, everybody, for patience. Thank you. Bye.